Probably, because you have no experience with it yourself. And that's the way we are with this fossil evidence. Most of us have no expertise and experience with it. Most of us haven't read books on it and done things like that. So we take the word of experts, and they tell us a story, but their story is a green chicken. If you look into it, you find out that what they're saying is not really the truth. Now, when we're going to look at this green chicken, these are the key criteria paleoanthropologists use to come up with monkeys to man fossil sequences. And these top two are the most important ones that they look at, the most important of them all. Morphology, which is the science of the form and configuration of the animals. Now, this is so simple that any child could do this and call it science. It's simply taking the form and lining them up in the sequence you think they should be to get from the form that you started with to the form that you ended with. In the case of monkeys to man evolution, we know where we started. We started with an ancient hominoid or hominid, some kind of a chimpanzee monkey-like creature. And we ended up with us. So it's not hard to find fossils and to stick them between a chimpanzee and a human when you know you want to start with a chimp-like creature and end with us. That's what they're doing. In a nutshell, that's the picture of it all. Next, they look at bipedalism. They look for evidence in the fossils of a creature that used to walk on all fours like a gorilla, knuckle walkers, to something that walked upright. And then there's some other things they look at, like man is the tool maker. Is there evidence of tools around the fossils that they find? If there's evidence of tools, then it's a more advanced stage of human development. If you find a chimp fossil with tools near it, you're going to put it up towards Homo erectus, or the last 1.5 million years. You're not going to put it 3.5 to 4 million years ago. And now fire is one of my favorite ones. If they find fire or evidence of a hearth or something like that next to a fossil, then that puts it from Homo erectus, or 1.5 million years ago, till now, sometime in the last 1.5 million years. But there's some logical problems with this. Most of us who build a fire are not considerate enough to fall over dead right next to it, so that we could discover us next to the fire so people will know who made the fire. You know, that typically doesn't happen. How many of you have been camping and seen your neighbors croak over dead next to the fire they built? Yeah, it's kind of rare, you know. I hope it stays rare. And then the dating processes at the bottom are isotopic dating. We've had lectures on that here, radiocarbon dating, and some other processes that they like to use to date either crystalline minerals found in sediments with bones, or the volcanic ash and sedimentary layers near the bones, that type of stuff. We're not going to get into these bottom two things. We're done with these two. I want to talk mostly about these two, because this is where it really gets fun. The morphology and the bipedalism. Now, one of the things on morphology, and I hope you can see that slide is not real dark, is brain size. Paleoanthropologists like to line up human evolution from the size of the brain and the skulls they find. The smaller the brain, the further ago the creature lived. Australopithecus afarensis, for example, had a brain size between 380 and 550 cubic centimeters. And then you get to Homo habilis, which Australopithecus afarensis may have jumped to. The brain size goes 600 to 850 cubic centimeters, and then on up the evolutionary sequence to Homo erectus, 700 to 1250, to Neanderthal, to 1100 to 1700, and then modern man, 1000 to 2000. And Lubenow, in his book Bones of Contention, claims, and he shows some research, that human Homo sapien brain sizes, that's us, vary from 700 cubic centimeters up to 2200. And it wasn't Lubenau's book, but it was elsewhere in my notes for this lecture, and which are temporarily unavailable because my laptop with my notes on it died last Saturday before I could print them all out. It's in the shop getting fixed, so I have confidence I'll get them back. Somebody actually checked Einstein's brain size and found it to be right about the middle of this thing, 1600 cubic centimeters. And one of the things that goes with evolution is that the bigger the brain, the more intelligent the creature. Now, does that make sense to you? Stop and think about that. That means whoever's got the bigger brain is smarter. Okay?
Is the elephant the smartest?
Who?
Elephant?
They got a big brain?
I don't know.
I don't know how big their brain is. I know Stegosaurus had a brain the size of a walnut, and they claimed they weren't very smart, but I don't know anyone's actually talked to a Stegosaurus. Who does? Ooh, he's in trouble. Yeah. Yeah, but see, I can illustrate this point a little bit, and I need two volunteers. Bill and Phil, would you two stand up for me, please? You know Bill Browning and Phil Budd. Now, these two guys are a lot smarter than me. Okay? I'm willing to admit that. However, I think I have the bigger brain. And I'd like you to judge. Who's got the bigger brain? Who says Phil? Who's not sure? Okay, Gary says Phil has the bigger brain. Okay. Ooh. Okay. So brain size is not an indicator of intelligence, and research is showing that more, that brain size is not an indicator of intelligence. But that has been one of the backbones of evolution, that as we have evolved, we've evolved a bigger brain and greater intelligence. I mean, look what we can do that Australopithecus afarensis couldn't do with its, at the max, 550 cubic centimeter brain. You know, we're flying space shuttles. It isn't. So obviously we got a bigger brain because we're more intelligent, or we're more intelligent because we have a bigger brain. So this is one of the things they look at in evolution. And when you stop and think about it, that's almost a silly thing to say. Brain size does not dictate intelligence. Einstein was in the middle of this range, not the end, where he should have been if he was as intelligent as everyone claims. Gary?
Any correlation between brain size and brain weight as far as intelligence? Or would you look it up if you don't know?
I don't know. I can see if I could find out something on it.
Well, because that Marilyn Boston Rock claims to have 200 and something IQ. But she's not a Christian, so she can't be very smart.
Let's measure her brain.
And I suspect she's a very small woman, so she wouldn't have as large a brain capacity or area for her brain to develop in. So
Okay.
it must have something to do with how many neurons and stuff you have running through there rather than just size.
I should add too, just recently I was reading some stuff about brains, humans, and intelligence, and the old idea that we use 10% of our brain has been pretty much shown to be baloney, that we do indeed use virtually 100% of the brain that we have to run our bodies and to do other things. So the idea that 10% is only used is a myth. Now, to move on to some other pieces of morphology, form and function, something else they do. They, of course, line up skulls, and I hope you can see this. This is a gorilla. This is Australopithecus africanus, and this is a modern Homo sapien, drawings of them. And here's a couple of things that they look at. We'll look at this